He's not a liar, but please discount his words as long-term truths until he's proven it over a much longer period of time than the first few weeks of dating. Frustrating it was to hear that it was valuable to hear that, because I am on your side. I am constantly betraying my gender because I think it's important that you know the truth about men, not just what you want it to be, but rather what it is, which I find to be much more empowering. Hey, this is Evan Marquez, a dating coach for smart, strong, successful women, your personal trainer for love. Thank you for joining me today on the Love You podcast. I am excited, rejuvenated even. The Substack has been going really well. If you haven't subscribed to Lovesplaining yet, go to evanmarquez.com/Substack. I'm putting out some of my favorite material that I have in 20 years. If you have been listening for a while and you haven't yet given a review, please do me a favor. It takes so little time. Go to the reviews, scroll down to the bottom of this, go to the reviews section on Apple or Spotify. Give me 5 stars, say something nice, or 4 stars if you don't feel that strongly about it. But say something nice. It means a lot. It helps with the algorithm, helps us get seen by more women. And at the end of the podcast, I'll tell you more about Love You, which is my signature coaching program where you could understand men, find love, be surrounded by a community of women who are living their dreams. Just this week, we got both a wedding invitation. It was actually a stream. It was a streamer of a wedding, a live wedding, as well as some baby photos. So it's good times here in Love You. If you're sitting on the sidelines and wondering, why isn't that happening for me? It may be because you're listening to podcasts and not getting any coaching. Just saying. Today's topic, super important topic, is something that I've been banging on about for a really long period of time. Does anybody listen? Not so much, but it doesn't stop me from having my thoughts and feelings. So this one's called Men Are in the Moment. And I think it's a controversial topic because it acknowledges something that we don't always like to talk about, which is that men and women, whether it's biologically or sociologically, tend to operate slightly differently. I'm not going to begin to explain why. I'm only going to observe that you've seen the exact same thing. So you're a woman, you're listening to this podcast, you have been hurt by men, you've been burned by men, you've been disappointed by men. This is your status quo. It is the definition of dating, is every guy I've ever dated ultimately flaked, left, ghosted, disappointed, didn't live up to his expectations or his potential, mistreated me, etc. So you're going to have a lot of baggage. I'm going to like to use the term baggage because it sounds like it's uniquely negative. Everybody has an accumulation of life experiences that we can call baggage, but you bring it into that first date. And so the posture, at least in your head on the first date, is, what's this guy's deal? Where is this going? I want to see what the future holds. I do not want to get hurt. I don't want to waste time. And that's a very logical response to your past. And you've seen guys operate this way. You've seen guys who've been burned by love and are bitter at women and Tinder and their ex-wives, and they come into dating right with their guns blazing. It's not a very effective dating strategy, but at least it's understandable. But then there's a lot of guys who are not thinking of the future right there on the first date. So if you're a woman, does he have money saved? Has he ever cheated on someone? How did he vote in the last election? Is this man going to make my life easier? Is he emotionally available? Can I talk about my innermost thoughts and feelings with him? Do we have things in common? All these things bouncing around your brain to figure out compatibility. What is he thinking? Is she cute? Is she nice? Can I be myself around her without walking on eggshells? He's not thinking much past that. And it doesn't mean all those other things that you mentioned that are in your head don't matter. They absolutely do matter. It's that certainly beginning phases of dating, he is not thinking anything other than, are you attractive? Am I having fun? Would I want to do this again? And maybe, can I get some action at the end of the night? His thoughts are not going beyond that. Men are in the moment. And so the result of this is that men and women often have different agendas when it comes to dating, right? And if that sounds offensive, isn't this largely what you've been observing and complaining about forever? Guys are only looking for one thing. Well, they're not only looking for one thing. right? That's one of the things they're looking for. It's not the only thing they're looking for. They're looking for love and support and companionship. But on the first date, it's basically, am I having fun? Are you cute? When are we going to, get naked? And I'm not even defending it. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying if I could wave a magic wand over the world, I wouldn't change it. I'm only observing what you're already observing, that sure enough, they're not really trying to figure out how much money you make and what your future looks like together and what your relationship is like with your ex and whether you've cheated or not, or whether you have money. They're not thinking of any of those things. This explains a lot of male behavior that my clients and smart, successful women who've joined Love U spend a lot of time getting frustrated about, complaining about. Guy who texts you and uses these familiar terms, babe, right? What's up, babe? Right? Hey, gorgeous. Hi, darling. Like whatever he does, which is very familiar. A lot of women are like, I don't know you. You don't get to talk to me that way. But this is part of how men flirt. It's familiar. It sometimes borders and crosses over too far into sexual. It's because their agenda is different. Then let's explain why guys try to move faster than women when it comes to dating, right? Not just, hey, nice profile, you're hot, let's meet. Want to come over to my place with a bottle of wine? It's not just that. It is part of an overall ethos of not really looking past the today and trying to figure out whether you're compatible. He'll figure that part out later. Once again, you see this. Guys go over the top and they tell you how beautiful you are, right? They mean it, right? It's over the top, maybe a little excessive. Why do guys do this? It's because they have a different agenda, and that agenda doesn't really go much further than tonight. The story that I often hear from my clients is that this is wrong, right? There's something wrong with men. And all I would say is there's something different about men. In the big Venn diagram of life, right? There's what women want, there's what men want. And we're looking for a point on the graph where there's enough overlap. If a man's just trying to get laid and doesn't want anything else, you should be able to sniff that out pretty quickly and say no and discard him. And if a woman says, I'm going to run a background check on you before our first date, I'm going to give you this 20-question questionnaire before we meet in person, all right? You're going to get STD tests every 6 days, all right? But the truth is, we're not going to have sex until we're married. Well, she's on a different playing field than most men. And so the answer is right in the middle. The answer is here. And how do we navigate that? How do we find that together? Because if you're a heterosexual woman and you want to date men, this is important stuff to understand. So my wife said it best of all, more concisely than I can, because I can't say anything concisely. Men look for sex and find love. I'll say it again to the camera. Men look for sex and find love. In the process of trying to get laid, they discover, she's kind of cool too. I enjoy spending time with her platonically. I wouldn't mind hanging around with her at the farmer's market. I wouldn't mind making breakfast for her the next day. This is not something they could determine from date one. All they could determine from date one is whether you're physically attractive and nothing more. And so women don't want men to be like this. You want them to be like you, thinking towards the future, thinking of compatibility. Right? For women, you may desire sex, but you're not going to sleep with some guy that you are barely attracted to, who, like that's not something that women do. Men do that kind of thing all the time. We need to just be able to acknowledge this, right? In general, about what's wrong with dating, instead of saying this is what's wrong with men. If you've ever been with a guy who says he's like crazy about you and can't stop thinking about you, and he one day wants to get married again, that is often taken as a sign that he wants to marry you. And that's not true either. The statement is literal. He finds you attractive. He can't stop thinking about you. He wants to get married again. That is not proof positive that he is in love with you, will be in love with you, is a good person, and you should anchor your entire future based on the I'm excited about you and I also look forward to a long-term commitment one day. But women often take these statements as statements of facts instead of statements of feelings, which is what they are in the moment. A guy can be crazy about you on date 2, and by date 6, decide he doesn't like you anymore. That is not an inconsistent position. He doesn't know you well enough to know why you're incompatible after date 2. He's only focused on hope and fantasy and projection and potential and all the things that I warn women to not get too focused on when you have too much chemistry with a guy. Every single person, man and woman, has discovered after dating someone, the longer you get to know them, you don't always like them more. Sometimes you like them less. It's why most things don't work out. But when a guy comes on really strong, women often call it love bombing. It sounds like it's intentionally manipulative. I don't think it's intentionally manipulative. I think it's sincere. I think it's as sincere as any woman getting really excited about a guy she's only gone out with twice and thinking about a future with him and how great it would be if this worked out and how he's different than any other guy she's met in a year and the stories we tell ourselves. Right? The only difference is women tell a different story at the very, very beginning. Women are trying to figure out their future from the very beginning, and men are only thinking about the present at the beginning. So men are prone to verbal torrents. Right? You've gone out with guys who talk. They just want you to listen to them. They don't ask you questions about yourself. It's a whole other ball of wax, and I'm not defending men who are terrible at that. But generally, men just tell their version of the truth, and the truth is ever changing. In this moment, I like you. In this moment, I'm excited about you. In this moment, I would like to sleep with you. In this moment, I'm reminded about how much I would like to get married one day. And it's not a promise of anything. And so what you're really trying to do is not take his words too literally at the beginning, but pay attention to his follow-up after the date. Because anybody can say anything on a date, and it doesn't mean they're a liar or intentionally manipulating you. It's what people say in the moment. What is his behavior after the date? Does he follow up the next day to say, can I see you again? Does he text you semi-regularly without being too stalkery? Does he plan dates in advance, showing you he's a priority? Does he talk about seeing you more than once a week? Does he talk about taking down his profile? Does he talk about a future, making plans with you for a weekend away in the future, which is indicative of his sincerity about future plans? These are the things we need to pay attention to, not, he told me he's falling in love with me. Jesus Christ, I just watched The Golden Bachelor. Everybody was falling in love with her. Everybody said, I love you in 5 weeks. Like that, I think the whole show takes 6 weeks, and the last 2 people the last week. So literally, you get, this guy is saying I love you. These women are saying I love you to people they didn't know a month ago. It doesn't mean anything, and you can't take it literally. So that's what I mean when I say men are in the moment. I wish I could police their words a little bit better, but there's no policing their words. There's only distancing yourself from those words and realizing that in your whole life, you've seen guys do a whole bunch of things that don't have any meaning beyond what they're feeling in the moment. The sooner you can understand that and believe it, the less surprised and disappointed and bent out of shape you'll be when, sure enough, that proves to be true the next time around. So he's not a liar, but please discount his words as long-term truths until he's proven it over a much longer period of time than the first few weeks of dating. I hope, however frustrating it was to hear that it was valuable to hear that, because I am on your side. I am constantly betraying my gender because I think it's important that you know the truth about men, not just what you want it to be, but rather what it is, which I find to be much more empowering. With that, I thank you for listening to today's Love You podcast. I love you. I appreciate you. I see you, and I am here for you. So if you want to be here for me, go to Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star review, say something nice that I will read and then later read to my wife in bed. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell, get notified when new content comes out. If you want to ask questions that I can answer on a future podcast, theoretically, in my Instagram feed, and in my Love-Splaining newsletter, which is at evanmarkatz.com/Substack. It's probably where I answer the most questions. You can go to evanmarkatz.com/questions to ask those questions. And then finally, if you're listening to this and saying, yes, this makes sense, this guy is compassionate, he knows what he's talking about, he has my back, he'll tell me the truth, but my life hasn't changed at all since I'm listening to him, Go to evanmarckatz.com/apply, put in your name and email address, watch a video on how to fix your broken man picker once and for all, so you too can live the life of your dreams. Right? You have a piece of it right now, but if you're missing love, you're not living the life of your dreams, and you know it. And I'm here to help. And I'm grateful for you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Love You podcast. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.